Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good early morning if you're joining us from Asia. My name is Ben at Medical Doorway, and we're back with another fantastic webinar from our colleagues over at Charles University First Faculty of Medicine. We have a lot of people who've registered for this. So, and I can see the attendee list is currently rocketing up at the moment as people join the webinar. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend the first kind of few minutes just doing some introductions. There's some old faces and some new faces joining us today. So I'll spend some time to introduce everyone. Then we're going to go into the presentation. We've got a fantastic presentation. And to be honest, we're also very, very honoured to have the brand new Vice Dean, Michal Vabrik. My pronunciation of Czech has never improved, despite the fact that I've been visiting the Czech Republic now for God, coming on 20 years. But then we've also been joined by, I call them the VIPs. We've got Darren, who's a 6th year medical student, so he's nearly about to graduate and embark on his clinical career and then reminisce about his good times at university. And then we've got John, who's a 1st year dentistry student who's from the UK and started at the First Faculty of Medicine last September.
Medicine.
And then medicine student. Sorry, John. Yeah, I thought it was dentistry for a second then, but that's my fault. And then we've got the glue that holds it all together, and that's Veronica. Okay, Veronica holds everything together, keeps everyone organized, keeps definitely me on my toes, making sure that the students are well informed and the entrance exams are all organized correctly, etc. As you see, we've got well over 40 people now signed in. More people are going to be joining us. So I'll talk about some of the actual kind of housekeeping and logistics about how things are going to run, guys. You will see at the bottom, you've got a little Q&A feature, all right? As we go through the webinar, please type your questions into the Q&A feature. Doesn't matter when you type them, just type them in. Doesn't matter whether you think your question shouldn't be asked or it's stupid. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If you've got a question, I guarantee there'll be many other people on the webinar or looking at the recording who've also got the same question. So please just type that question in. All questions we're going to deal with after the presentation, right? We're not going to answer questions as we go through the presentation. We'll deal with them all at the end. And we've got plenty of time to get these kind of questions asked and get them answered. So don't worry, ask the questions, okay? Then what will happen is we will, at the end, we will read each question out. So everyone who's listening, because your questions cannot be read by anyone else apart from myself and my colleagues who are on the webinar. So we'll read all the questions out, but most importantly, you will be anonymized. We're not going to read your names out at the same time as the questions. So that gives you that, security that you can ask any of the questions that you want. We'll read them out for 2 reasons. Like I said, everyone joining us today, both on Zoom, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, the different platforms that we're streaming live to today, will hear your question and get it answered. The most important thing is more people are going to see the recording of this afterwards, and they're going to have the same questions. So they'll be watching the recording, they'll hear your question and have the answer. That's going to save them time, us time, and it means everyone gets that experience that they want today and in the future when they watch the recording. So we've got, now we're over 50 people now joined in, so more people are coming in all the time, and it's great to see many of the names of the students that we've been dealing with here, as well as many of our college counsellors from schools all across the world. I'm recognising some of the names there, so it's great to see you again. I think we either last saw you in person in Dubai or in London at our different college counsellor events there. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Veronica and Professor Vrablik, and they can tell us all about the opportunities available at the First Faculty of Medicine, everything you will want to know, and then we'll bring in Darren and John after the presentation to address some of the questions. And I will kind of act more as a kind of a compare to direct the questions to whoever I feel is going to be the best person to answer that question, because it's not me that you guys want to hear from. It's the people who are going to be teaching and the people who have been getting taught in their time in Prague. So without any further ado, Veronica, I think I'm going to hand over to you. You can share your screen and I'm going to mute myself. Yeah, Veronica, you're on mute at the moment.
It's disabled now for some reason.
I believe we can hear you now, Veronica. You can start.
Yes, it's disabled, sorry.
We can hear you well. You can continue. Perfect.
Right, okay. Now, thank you, Ben. So, hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you on behalf of the team. They'll get a chance later. I get to say hello first to our webinar, where we would like to meet you and let you know what you can expect when you study medicine in the Czech Republic, in Prague, at First Faculty of Medicine, Charles University. I will ask Professor Vrablík to start with his part, because he is the person to introduce our faculty, introduce the programs, and let you know straight away why it's a great choice for anyone seeking international education in medicine in the Czech Republic. So if I can ask you, please.
Yeah, Veronica, thank you very much. Thank you, Ben. Thank you to everyone who's joined this webinar today. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us, basically, to talk about what is it like to study at the first faculty of the Charles University in Prague, Czech Republic. I'm Michal Vrablík. I'm the Vice Dean for International Studies, and I was appointed only some 6 months ago. However, I find it totally thrilling to be part of the great team that takes care of the huge community of international students at the First Faculty of Medicine. And I can tell you that now I am a full professor of internal medicine, being employed at the First Faculty and in the General University Hospital, which is the, let's say, clinical base of the First Faculty of Medicine. And I've got huge international collaborations and connections, and it all started some 30 years ago. And where else than at the First Faculty of Medicine, where I was a student, where I was in the shoes of John and subsequently Darren. And then I basically joined the team of teachers, and I was going through, well, multiple quite challenging steps. And right now I find myself here, being the Vice Dean of the faculty, well, spending very interesting and thrilling times throughout my pre-graduate as well as postgraduate studies, because you know that it actually never ends while you become a physician. So it's my great pleasure now to be here with you and to introduce you to our faculty. So, Veronica, if you can show us the first slide, because we prepared a lot of slides for you, and Veronica is master of ceremony tonight. Well, sorry, Ben, I know that's you, but Veronica's, let's say, master of the presentation. So just a few facts about the First Faculty of Medicine and what should be highlighted at the very beginning. Charles University is definitely the largest educational institution in the entire Czech Republic, having 17 different faculties, so we are one of them. And we are the first faculty of medicine, so you may ask yourself why the first? Yes, because we are the best. No, I'm just making jokes. First faculty is basically a part of the big medicine school of the Charles University that comprises altogether 5 faculties. However, we are proud to continue the tradition of the oldest part of the university that was founded in 1348 as 4 faculties only, and Faculty of Medicine was one of the founding faculties. And our faculty is the one continuing the tradition. What you're going to find at the First Faculty of Medicine, not only the 3 or 4 people from the representing the faculty tonight, but I'm really sure you're going to find strong and supportive academic community. You will definitely find a huge number of peers, because we're the largest faculty of medicine in the country, and currently there's approximately 900 international students who study with us. So it's a big family. And that means that basically everyone finds a body and a peer that fits best the needs of each individual fresher. And I'm quite curious about what John is going to tell us about it. about his first steps at the faculty, because he started only in October this year. The faculty is traditional, and we insist to have very traditional ceremonies that you definitely are going to like. However, we are definitely very modern and up to date in all aspects of teaching, and therefore you will definitely find very advanced methods, including support, including all the e-tools and digital teaching helps. And we definitely insist that our students graduate with a lot of hands-on experience. And that experience actually comes very early in the curriculum. So I'm going to show you how the curriculum is organized, but basically we organize it in a way that every student encounters at least a piece of clinical medicine, even at the very first year of the studies. And this basically expands till clinical years that basically are based on clinical rotations. You should also know that Charles University and its faculties of medicine rank very high in international scoring. So Charles University and medical faculties within the university rank as 1% top medical schools in the world. Very frequently, we are getting questions whether after graduation, the diploma entitles you to work in all the different markets of our globalized world. And I'm really pleased to tell you that the diploma works very excellently in the entire European region, but also in North America and elsewhere as well. So basically, it's fully compatible with the most prestigious diplomas from medical schools that you may know by heart. As I already told you, we rely and insist our students are excellent in their clinical skills and in their clinical training. To that end, we are very happy to ensure that clinical training is being provided in 5 major hospitals across Prague. However, the principal clinical facility serving the needs of students of the first faculty is within the campus of the faculty in the very heart of the city, in the part basically which people like visiting as tourists. So sometimes the premises of our faculty and even the hospital are being confused with other historical buildings hosting museums or different exhibitions, but the interiors have been refurbished to the needs of modern healthcare and teaching facilities. So don't worry, but studying with us makes sure that you can enjoy even the beauties of our UNESCO protected capital. So this is basically the outline of what is going to await you at the first faculty of medicine. There's plenty of opportunities for every single one of you who'd like to do even more and spare their extra time, though particularly at the very beginning, and I'm quite sure John is going to agree with me, you're not going to have much of a free time because studying medicine is challenging. However, as you proceed and you get more acquainted with all the needs, there's going to be free time that you can spend with the university, with the faculty, also getting involved in multiple different initiatives and activities, including research initiatives. But we've got students' organizations that basically create focus groups for different types of clinical medicine and medicine disciplines, including surgery, neurosurgery, but we've got also students group that's focused on research opportunities. So basically there's plenty of, if you wish, extracurricular initiatives and activities that are led and organized by students with, of course, the support of the first faculty of medicine. So we are going to proceed in our presentation that we prepared, and I'm going to tell you more about the organization of the studies. So Veronica, if you can move. Yeah, and throughout the presentation, every now and then, you're going to see pictures. So yes, as I already told you, we are continuing the huge and very long, almost 700-year tradition So you will see a very ancient, but as you can see, comfortably refurbished teaching theaters and other facilities. So I'm really glad that Veronica blended the presentation in a way to show that, yes, we combine the history with the updated facilities. And as I told you, and perhaps it's worth mentioning, the first faculty of medicine is the strongest in its research background. So basically everyone who's into research would find a proper place in case your capacity allows and your interest is deep enough to survive in the very competitive research environment. So we basically provide teaching in both general medicine and dentistry medicine. General medicine course is organized as a 6-year course, and you can see the outline of its content. So you start with some theoretical background that is necessary. And I'm really very proud that our students are very strong in this theoretical knowledge that mirrors very excellent results of, for example, very competitive USMLE exams that basically last couple or 3 years, our students had more than or close to 90% success rate in these exams. So that's basically the, let's say, fundamentals or the grounds for this success is being laid within the first 3 years of studies, which do provide you with the theoretical background, but they also have certain clinical aspects because we all understand that you like studying medicine, particularly because you want to encounter patients, you want to basically practice your to-be medical skills. So even clinical encounters are being organized within the 3 years of teaching. The final 3 years are organized as clinical experience and clinical rotations. We encourage clinical rotations abroad, and we do have very broad international network of facilities where our students can do their clinical rotations, including options being supported by the Erasmus and Erasmus Plus programs that are open even to our international students. So quite a few of our international students actually do get foreign experience, if you wish, not only in their home countries, but also elsewhere, being supported by the Erasmus, which is an EU initiative open to all students studying European universities. We then, the second big program is the dentistry program that is also taught in English. It's organized as a 5-year course, so it's a bit shorter. And once again, this program enables the graduates to start immediately after graduation their clinical and independent careers. So we make sure that through practical exposure, practical teaching, all graduates of our dentistry programs who receive MDDR degree are able to start their practical work immediately after graduation. So no worries, everything can be tested and rehearsed at the, let's say, protective environment of the first faculty of medicine with us. But after graduation, you should be fully competent physicians to basically start working, particularly as the graduates of dentistry program, you are fully entitled to even open your own practice, at least in the Czech Republic. But of course, these conditions differ according to region or country. So this is about our programs, and I'm quite sure that you are also eager to learn more about the admission procedures and about what's that like to study at our faculty. And to that end, I'm really glad we've got Dr. Veronika Vlachová with us, who is the manager of our admissions team and who's a key person who's overseeing the admission procedures. So in the next part of our presentation, I think that it's going to be Veronika's time to give us an overview of the admission procedures and perhaps to give us tips and tricks how to go through it as smoothly as possible. So Veronika, thank you very much for operating the slides. And now I would hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Although I would like to, before we move on to that part, invite Darren to kind of complement your point of view with his, because he has everyone almost starts crying when they realize that Darren might be leaving soon. I'm sorry. So I was just going to say he has already been here for 5 years and a bit. And this is his last and so far successful year. So he definitely has a lot of experience to share with you. So Darren, do you think I could ask you, I could maybe go back with the presentation and ask you to give the applicants your point of view?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Veronica, for the introduction. And thank you very much, Professor Brablik. You really have covered a lot of great points at our faculty. So I'm left a little bit dry, but I think I will start off here talking about the students' point of view.
Darren, you may maybe start with mentioning how terrible that was to sit for the state exam of internal medicine last week, and congratulations because you passed it very successfully.
Thank you very much, Professor. It was in fact my internal medicine state exam. Thank you. It was in Professor Brablik's department. So thank you for that. Yeah, it was definitely stressful, but great examiners, great department. So I can't complain. So hello everyone. Thank you, Ben, for having us and Medical Doorway. My name is Darren. I'm a 6th-year medical student here at Charles First Faculty of Medicine. I previously worked as president of our student organization, which we call MedSoc, and which stands for Medical Society. And I'll run through a few points about our faculty and what it means to be a student in our faculty. So to start off, maybe I'd talk a little bit about our student organization, which we call Medical Society. And this organization has really been running for the last 20 to 25 years, where we tap into the different aspects of students' life and try to increase their engagement with the faculty and within the environment that we have here, this beautiful city of Prague in Czech Republic. So with MedSoc, we have a student support team, we have an academic affairs team. So what that means is that you're going to have student guides from your first day at our faculty till your final exams in your first year. So they're going to be with you. So what I say in medicine, it's that it never sort of goes in one sort of slope. It goes up and down in this sense, you know. So you need people that are there at those bottom peaks, as well as those in the highs, you know. And sometimes I say that you need to experience the downs of the lows to really understand what is the height of the highs. And this is something I say quite often. But with that being said, we have support for you. We have students, it's in a student-led organization that's going to take care of you from your first day at the faculty, and whatever sort of pitfalls or difficult challenges that you might encounter, maybe it might be your dissections, your winter dissections, your summer dissections, or maybe even your clinical years, or doing an external exam, a licensing exam like the USMLE. So we have students in a student-led organization that's going to help you. And we have some absolutely amazing staff who you got to see, and a huge team in the international office that's going to take care of you, both mentally, physically, as well as in terms of academically, in terms of your education. I want to touch a little bit on our curriculum and just maybe simplify it a little bit more. In your first year, we have a 6-year program. And the first 3 years is preclinical, although, as Professor Brablik mentioned, we do spread out a number of different clinical experiences to give you guys that sort of introduction or propedeutics into the clinical years. And your 4th, 5th, and 6th years are clinical years. In your first year, you study anatomy and histology. Anatomy is macroscopically how everything looks in the body, where everything is in the body. Histology is microscopically where everything is in the body. In your 2nd year, you study physiology and biochemistry. So in your first year, you studied where everything is in the body. In your 2nd year, you study how everything works in the body. And in your 3rd year, you study pathophysiology and pathology. So what happens when things go wrong, all the diseases in the body. And then in your 4th, 5th, and 6th year, you're placed in, you know, one of 7 different hospitals, or really all of these different 7 hospitals in the Czech Republic or in Prague. And you intern at these and you practice all of this theoretical knowledge that you've developed in your first 3 years. We work with a number of different hospitals, institutions here, clinics, outpatient departments, physiotherapy centers, you can name it. My favorite is probably VFN, or the General Teaching Hospital, which we are affiliated with. We also work with Motol Hospital, Military Hospital, Belovka, Tomaya. So this is a lot of a number of different experiences that you're going to see, because at the end of the day, you're never going to experience two patients who are the same. You have to have really a variety of different patients, a variety of different experience. And I think interning at these different hospitals is really going to give you that. And with that being said, I also just want to touch on how Professor Brablik also showed you a picture of our anatomy lecture hall. And the table in the anatomy lecture hall is actually a dissection table that they've reused as the main table, just to add a little bit of history into that room, because our faculty is great on combining the historical legacy that we've had for the last 700 years with modern teaching education. To give you a little bit of an example of modern education that we have is our simulation center. So our simulation center was built about 3 to 4 years ago, and it's one of 7 leading simulation teaching centers in Europe. And we use this not only for our second year students in physiology to run them through simulations. And in the second year, we don't really expect students to understand or diagnose a disease. We just want them to understand what's happening. But we also use them. In fact, I'm in my pediatrics rotation now. And yesterday I was in the simulation center with a pregnant dummy that delivers, in fact, and we practice simulations on that, as well as neonates and children of different sizes. So super cool simulation center. But the idea is that we combine this historical education, this history that we have, that we're so proud of, with new modern teaching that you need. And what we want to do is equip you with the best tools that you have to practice medicine, either here in Prague, in Europe, in UK, or really anywhere else in the world. So that's really just a few of the points. I'll say hi to you guys, to all of you in a second at the Q&A session. But this is a little bit into my experience in the last 5.5 years. And definitely, I feel like I would be crying more than Professor Brablik and Dr. Veronica when I'd be leaving. So thank you for that.
No, it's definitely going to be interesting, because Darren has become part of the furniture at the First Faculty of Medicine, and he's joined myself in Dubai at our events, both last in 2024 and 2023. So he's a great ambassador for the faculty. And I think, Darren, like many other graduates, you're going to kind of maintain those links to Prague and to the faculty, I would hope, for years to come. But
that's definitely true, Ben, and I'm really proud that we've got students like Darren and John and many others with us who basically create the core of our alumni program that thanks to Darren and other students' initiatives and thanks to management skills of Veronica is now going to, let's say, be rejuvenated and expanded. So basically, our graduates are going to be still with us.
Yeah. Before we go on to this presentation, guys, I want to say, you type your questions into the Q&A feature. We've got a lot of questions already in that we will be going through, but keep typing them in. Don't worry, we will make our way through the questions. There is some kind of repetition, so don't worry. Your question will be answered in some form, but please do type away, and don't worry. As I said before, any questions that you have will be answered, and we're not going to release your name along with your question. So don't worry. If you've got a query, please go ahead and type it in. I'm going to hand back over to Veronica now to carry on with the rest of the presentation.
Thank you very much. I would like to add to what Darren said, that really our program, the general medicine program, has a capacity of 150 students. The dentistry program has a capacity of 30 students, and this capacity is not the result of an overnight decision. It has been evolving for a couple of years, and we are investing energy, money, and time, everything, to make the experience of our students better every day, I would say. I am proud to say. So we not only launched the induction course last year that is going to last for roughly a week or 10 days this year, and basically allow the students to meet each other, meet our staff, to get to know about the basics of studying at First Faculty of Medicine, and giving them an opportunity and chance to start with a bit more information than without it, and hopefully make their start easier and their integration easier. And we have been employing also people positions to support the students even during their studies. So a couple of years ago already, we started offering the service of a psychological counselor, mental health counselor, who is a psychologist in our hospital and with the first faculty. We now have a well-being officer that the students can actually address with even small troubles that happen at their accommodation or in their personal life. A sports officer that again cooperates closely with MedSoc and its clubs, its sports clubs, and we do have maybe Darren. I would ask you because I'm not a sports person, I have to say, or I exercise individually, but I do think that MedSoc has a good football team, I've heard, and there is a running club as well.
So it's not a good football team, it's the best football team, I would say.
Right. I apologize.
But yes, they do, definitely.
Got that wrong. So we now have another position that cooperates with what the students already have shown that they want and need in their lives. And this brings me back to what Professor Vrablik said, that basically with all this in place, studying medicine really doesn't mean losing your private life. It means learning something incredibly interesting, practical, helpful, and at the same time, our faculty gives you a chance to maintain your personal life, make connections, maybe start even new hobbies, discover Prague. And Prague, and I have to stress that we are in the city center. And if you can imagine what it looks like, our campus is kind of scattered around. And actually, there are also other Charles University faculties nearby. So really the area where we every day work and study is a study area. It's a large campus, you could say, with beautiful individual buildings and parks around and cafes to have a coffee at, and places that really make your life nicer, even throughout the day, even when just walking from a lecture to another lecture, or later maybe between the departments, which are sometimes in different buildings, but still within a walking distance. So it does add to your quality of life, and it's something I personally appreciate even as an employee now, being a doctor and also working for the international office. I will just show you a couple of pictures again, because I like to see the pictures myself. It really gives me energy every day, because I see these happy faces not only in photographs but also around the faculty. And this is, of course, Darren with his friends. I believe they're members of MedSoc, right?
Yes, in fact, this was, I think, a faculty photo shoot that we did for the new master's program that we have. And so the guy on the left, William, he's a graduate, and the other two are in a few younger years. So yeah, they're all part of MedSoc as well. William was our head of events, and Rachel and Anna also worked with MedSoc. So definitely, yeah.
And Anna is very helpful again with different activities within the faculty. So I know her personally too. This is a photograph from our induction course. So as you can see, we had some great icebreakers, and something MedSoc is surely proud of, the annual ball. And beautiful people with future in their eyes, bright future, and the whole lot. And this is again the induction course, where obviously we had the Vice Dean visiting and welcoming our freshers. Our students playing sports, because Charles University has different sports centers focusing on winter sports or summer sports around the country. So again, opportunities open to every student of our faculty, and perhaps giving you the opportunity to try something you haven't tried before.
I think Veronica's just had to leave. I think she had a slight emergency in the home there. She'll be back in a second. But
I believe so. I believe so. So I can definitely take over because I'm quite sure Veronica's going to show us other pictures.
I apologize. Sorry.
No worries. That happens all the
time.
That's
life.
But basically, this is from our academic club, isn't that? So basically,
right.
Students do have an opportunity to basically walk to our academic club, have a cup of coffee or something else. Well, Prague's quite famous for beer, but I'm not encouraging you to test it in large quantities. But basically, there's a club where students might be having parties and spend their free time when it's cold outside. So that's it. But we are glad, Veronica, to have you back. So hopefully, home emergency is now over.
And also something we are proud of is different activities our students manage to get involved in, even though the studies sometimes are demanding indeed. So here singing at one of our annual activities events. And you can see that Prague is a beautiful, international, and even green. Now, I would like to mention for the admissions process, starting with the application and actually who is eligible to apply. So who can apply to our faculty? Basically anyone who is able to prove that they completed their secondary education by enrollment, which takes place in September, mid-September, early September. So really until that time, if you are able to provide us with a diploma, that is what we need. We don't require you to speak Czech. Czech is actually a compulsory subject that you will take later during your studies. You will learn some Czech that you need in the hospital, but it's not something you need to know before. The application has a deadline, but it's actually the end of August. So it gives you a good chance to apply with us, hopefully with Medical Doorway, with Ben, our trusted representative. The application happens online, or is submitted online, and it is followed by an entrance exam. This might be a bit scary reading this, because I have heard a number of times that it is demanding. I'm not sure whether it was specifically called difficult, but demanding, because it has 2 rounds. But round 1 is a written test that tests your knowledge from biology, chemistry, and physics with logical thinking, because physics is tricky for international students. We have found that it's taught very differently around the world, which is why we included, and this has been around for a couple of years already, questions that literally test logical thinking, not just your knowledge of physics. And this is a level of knowledge we are testing, and we want you to have. So high school natural sciences. It's an MCQ, multiple choice question test, consists of 3 papers, and the exact format is called single best answer. I am stressing this because preparing for the format of the test, and again, representatives like Ben will help you with this. It gets rid of 50% of the trouble. Being prepared for how long it takes, what it feels like, 90 minutes to be writing for 90 minutes, knowing how it goes. So knowing, for example, that it's better to mark your answers on the documents you get, and then when you're sure, make sure you have time to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Tricks like these help immensely. So please do talk to representatives, because they do have this precious knowledge that will help you get through round 1. And once you get to round 2, you advance to round 2, that is really truly a chance for you to meet us and for us to meet you. So there are, it's called multiple mini interviews. It's a format that you can Google, and it will tell you how it goes. It's approximately 10-minute interviews focused on critical thinking, or it's a role play where there is a ethically difficult situation that you are supposed to act out. And really, we are looking for you showing your personal skills, your experience, how you can connect what you've learned, and whether you are able to actually speak English and use your brain to get throughout the study. So we're not testing knowledge in this part. We are getting to know you, allowing you to shine, basically. And having said that, we are really trying to create a friendly atmosphere and let you shine, let you show yourself. The points you get in the second round are decisive of whether you will be admitted or not, and you will get to know within a couple of days after the interview. It's important to mention that this year we have a new condition that if you have a previous degree, bachelor's, master's from medicine, nature, sciences related areas, from an EU or OECD country, you submit a request, and we allow you to skip round 1 and proceed to round 2, the interviews. So that's an interesting option. We have already had some requests from Medical Doorway, for example. Thank you, Ben, for letting your applicants know. So that's an interesting opportunity that we have now. And then enrollment comes. But to be honest, cooperating with someone like Ben really makes the enrollment just a couple of steps to take and get you closer to your induction course and then the beginning of studies. But just do not underestimate this part, because if you require a visa, it takes some time. It may take up to 3 months from certain countries. So it is definitely a good thing to do to proceed quickly. Now, I would just allow, if I may, John to mention how he went through the application process and the entrance exam and the enrollment, and maybe say a couple of words about his experience so far, and then open up the Q&A section.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. Thank you very much. So hi, everyone. My name's John. I'm a first-year student of medicine at the first faculty, and I applied with the help of Ben through Medical Doorway in my gap year after completing the IB diploma at an international school in the UK. So I could talk about my experience applying. So my main method of preparing was past papers, which I got from Medical Doorway. And that helped a lot with the physics, because I know some of you are having concerns about not taking physics in high school, which I didn't take. So doing the past papers from Ben was enough and sufficient for my successful application. And I could talk about the induction course, which was my first kind of point of contact with the university. and it was a good opportunity to get to know all the other students who are from lots of different countries. And I believe that's new this year. So that involved lots of like icebreaker activities in this Czech spa town called Mariánské Lázně, which is famous for its like spa water, or like spring water.
Amazing pronunciation, John. You're already sounding like a local.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so we did games like bowling and finding landmarks around the town, which was very fun. And so right now, I've just finished winter dissections, which is just before the Christmas holidays, and I'm preparing for a few finals, one in histology, one in biophysics. And I believe another concern with physics is the biophysics course, if you hadn't taken physics in high school. But I regularly attend lectures and take notes, and it's really no trouble. So that yeah, it's fine if you didn't take physics. Just work on past papers. Yeah, so the academic subjects I'm taking right now are anatomy, which is the biggest one, and I have weekly tests, and then the dissection final course recently, which is where you take all that textbook knowledge and knowledge from lectures and really apply it to a real cadaver. And that's where I found I really learnt anatomy. So everything kind of came together, and I saw it on a real body. And it was quite important to me to learn on a real cadaver. Being quite interested in surgery, I wanted to see it, in front of me, like as it is presented in the human body. Now, my other subjects are histology, which is, as Darren said, microscopic anatomy, which is very interesting. And we have weekly practicals and lectures about that, looking at slides under a light microscope. I have biophysics, which is all about physics in medicine. So that's magnetic resonance imaging, MRI scans, X-ray, ultrasound, different types of medical devices and how those work, like the concepts from physics, really explaining that. And I find the lectures to be really informative, and I take a lot from them. So that's very useful. And then Czech language. I enjoy learning Czech. We have bi-weekly classes, and I got to practice some Czech in Mariánské Lázně, but I try and, like, when I order food from cafes, I always try and order in Czech, so that helps. Then a few more subjects. We have Latin every week, or medical terminology, which is important as we should know the names of anatomical structures in Latin. So these weekly classes in medical terminology are very informative and enjoyable. And I recently passed my Latin credit test, so I had my credit for this semester, which is good. And two last subjects, first aid and physical education. So first aid, we have tests once every 2 weeks and practical classes once every 2 weeks. So that's things like basic life support, how to help people with different degrees of burns, so like surface level burns, deeper burns, how to use a defibrillator, how to give chest compressions and mouth-to-mouth breathing. And for this basic life support, so CPR, chest compressions, we use these realistic dummies, and they have it's like an iPad screen, and it shows you how well you're compressing the chest as if we're a real person. So it gives you real-time feedback, which I find to be very valuable. And then lastly, physical education, so weekly gym classes. The options are swimming, football, yoga, bodybuilding. There's quite a few, and I've enjoyed that too. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me.
Well, thanks a lot, John. Actually, which part of the physical education have you selected?
I did bodybuilding, just gym class, yeah.
One can easily see it. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Lovely. Thank you so much, everyone. Veronica, if you can just take your screen share off, and then I'm going to just kind of like explain to everyone what the next stage of today's seminar is going to be. We're going to be online for about another 40 minutes. Okay. We do have about over 40 questions, and there is some repetition, but we are going to get through them all. We might not answer them in the order they've been asked, because I think we can deal with some questions quite quickly, which are kind of routine, and then we can get stuck into some of the meaty questions, and have a bit more of a discussion and a discourse. But before we start, there's been a lot of questions about exam dates, prep, how to apply. They'll pop up. So I'm going to deal with those now quite quickly and quite easily if my esteemed colleagues will just give me a few moments. So, big questions about the exam dates. At Medical Doorway, although we're UK-based, we are global, okay? We have got a global reach. We work with schools all across the world. We were back out in Dubai in November. We're off to Canada in April. We're going to be in Portugal in March. So, but we do run exams globally. And this year, I'm not going to share the screen fully. These are our exam dates. So we do start off in Dubai on the 7th of April. Then we're going to be in London on the 26th of April, and then over to Hong Kong, and then in Canada on the 14th of June. Now, it's important. As you can see, those exams are in those different locations. There was someone asking a question about if which exam they would have to take if they weren't living in those countries. This gives you the ability to travel to find the place closest to you. If you do need visas for these places, you need to prepare it in advance. But we've got exams, as you say, in the Middle East, in North America, in Asia, Southeast Asia area, as well as in London. You'll see there are some exams later on. Now, I know from Veronica said you can apply until the end of August. That's really only possible if you do not need a visa to study in the Czech Republic. We do take our students through the Czech visa procedures. We know them inside and out, but it does take time, and it can take different periods of time depending on your passport and depending on where you live. And I think Darren, who did his exam in the UAE 6 years ago, can testify to that. So what I'm saying here is that if you do need a visa, then you are going to be looking at taking those exams up until the 14th of June. If you can enter the Czech Republic visa free, and that does include Brits, although we do need a visa now, but there's a separate system that we can work for British applicants, then you've got the options of taking the exams later in the year, 29th of June in London, which is basically after A-levels are finished, or after A-level exams. And then you do have the option, this is mainly for our people who are living in the Schengen area, taking it on the 14th of July in Berlin. Last year, we launched our first ever, what I call clearing exam. So this was the August exam. Again, this is only going to be for students who are British, European Union passport holders, or those who've got existing Schengen residency permits. But they are our exam dates, and they are all on our website. And what I'm going to go and do is I'm actually going to show you the website next. And that will show you where you can actually see those exam dates. So if you go to medicaldoorway.com, you'll see a link saying exams. If you click on exams, we have had some internet issues in the office today, so just bear with me if things are a bit slow. You can see all of our exams, 7th of April in Dubai, 26th of April there in London, 1st of June in Hong Kong. You see a nice little flag, conveniently tells you where the exam is located. Toronto here for our first exam for North America, and then again, 29th of June. So all the information is there. If you want to find out how to apply, there are different ways to get to the application form. If you do go to the university, First Faculty of Medicine, you will see a blue button, Czech Medical University Central Application Form. Now, this form is the form you will use to apply to First Faculty. I will say that you could also apply to other faculties of the Czech Republic using the same form as well, okay? And I know Professor Vrablik will not have me a problem mentioning that because obviously First Faculty is oversubscribed. But on this form, you can then choose where you're taking your exams. All First Faculty exams are in person. Like I said, we're running them in the UK, the UAE, Canada, Hong Kong, and Germany. You can take the exam in the Czech Republic as well at the faculty if the date is convenient for you. At Medical Doorway, we can help you do that. The forms themselves are extremely simple. They take no more than 10 minutes to fill in, just name, personal details, some documents that we need, and then you can select First Faculty, and then you can select medicine or dentistry using this particular form there. Once that form is submitted, it comes through to Medical Doorway. Our first job really is to look at your form to see if you're eligible. 99 times out of 100, the applicant is eligible. And then we will have to send you the invoice for the university application fee, which we pay to the university, which is 7,000 krona. And then the exam fee, which covers the costs of running the exam. And that exam fee will vary depending on where you take the exam. London is a bit cheaper than Dubai, than Hong Kong, of course, because the travel cost for the examiners from the Czech Republic is lower. So we've had a number of questions also then about the actual preparing for the exam. And I know, John, thank you for that, kind of commendation about our work. We've spent a huge amount of time to ensure that you're prepared for the exams. The one thing I'm going to say is that the bread and butter of the exams is your high school knowledge content, all right? And people ask me, what level is the exam? The exam, I wouldn't say, is a particular level. You will find some questions are more similar to GCSE. Some questions might be more similar to kind of what we would call AS back in the day, and other questions might be more similar to something like International Baccalaureate. The actual questions do vary significantly. And what we've done is we've put together a system called Czech Test Prep. and I'm going to show you it now. And this is something we've evolved over the years. It's not something which we've just done, you know, in 1 year. It's something which has grown and grown and grown for over a number of years, and it had a big update this year. So in Czech Test Prep, we have had lectures developed, and this is not to replace your high school education. It's there to kind of identify the aspects of the education that you've had and then help you kind of refine your knowledge. These have all been done by specialists in their field. So Dr. Tracy Cole, this is a British chemistry teacher with a PhD. She developed an entire system there. And then what we have done as well is we've got, as I said, the past paper questions or the sample questions, which we've translated from Czech into English to give you the chance to familiarize yourself with the types of questions that are going to get asked. And one thing I always say about physics, and people have this panic about physics, is if you've done maths, you're very well prepared for the types of physics questions that you're going to get asked. So we have thematic physics questions, thematic biology questions, and various past papers or questions that we formulated into papers. So if we kind of like continue the last attempt, this is one of the sample questions. You know, you've got a question about mass, which is very obviously maths orientated. The units of kilowatts, yeah? These are all questions which, the types of questions which could come up in your exam. But the one thing you'll see is many of them are going to be like applied maths or bits about SI units. Some of that will be more GCSE level physics. So the one thing I say to students is when you see the word physics, everyone seems to panic. We understand that, we get it, but I will tell you now, of the hundreds of students that apply with Medical Doorway every single year, very few have taken physics to A level or international baccalaureate level, all right? It is achievable, people do get through it, and as John said, once you're onto the actual biophysics modules, that's when your physics knowledge is going to excel because you will need that knowledge for your time at medical school. So we are right with you through the application, making the application, getting registered, preparing for the exam. And the one thing I'm going to say as well is we also do provide everyone live MMI preparation as well. If you need it, we do offer classes in MMI. It's not going to address your MMI. It's just going to tell you what an MMI is and the types of things you can get asked. It's more about MMI technique than actual carbon copy, because MMIs can't be carbon copied in the same ways perhaps other exams can be. It's more about familiarizing self with the strategy, with the concept, so you're not like a rabbit in the headlights when someone asks you a question that you think is ridiculous, because sometimes some of the questions might seem ridiculous, and actually it's not so much the answer you give to that type of question, it's the way you answer or address the problem that is being faced to you, because that's medicine, that's healthcare. It's never going to be just one straightforward experience from the start of your career right through the end. So I've answered some questions there already, but let's going to fire through some of these questions that are quite simple, and then I'm going to delegate some of those questions to my colleagues online here. So someone's asked, what's the differences between the first, second, and third faculties of Charles University in Prague? I get asked this. I've already been asked this today earlier on the phone when someone called the office. First, second, and third, they're not a ranking, all right? They are simply the chronology in which those different faculties were established. So the first faculty of medicine can date its history back to 1348. It's the oldest faculty in Prague. Second and third faculty were established post-World War II, I believe. So they became the second and third because it's simply done in the order they were established. For those people who are a bit confused of how that works, think about Oxford or Cambridge University in the UK. It's not a university like Manchester or Liverpool or one of the civic red brick universities. It's a collegiate university made up of different colleges. So people might go to Oxford University, one might want to go to one college, another might go to another college. In this case, we've got students who've gone to first faculty of medicine, and we've got students who've gone to second faculty of medicine or third faculty of medicine. There are differences between the three in terms of how the curriculum is structured, the philosophy, fine. Speak to us individually and we might help find the right fit for you. But they are basically the main differences. The big thing to remember is the qualification you get is from Charles University, so recognised across the UK, EU, most other countries. If you want to work in California, there might be a few little differences we need to talk about there, but on the whole, the programmes are going to be globally recognised, regardless of which faculty you have had the chance to graduate from. So I'm just ticking off the questions which have asked the same thing, okay? Someone's asked, can I take the entrance exam in Dubai? Yes, 7th of April with Medical Doorway. It's going to be at the GEMS Wellington Academy Silicon Oasis, where we did our big event, which Darren was at back on I think it was the 9th of November. Okay, right. Let's get into some of the specific questions. Okay. Someone's asked a question. Please tell us a bit more about the USMLE program, Pathway to the States. So for those that don't know, if you want to work in the United States, you have to have passed what's called the United States Medical Licensing Exams. First faculty has a very, very high pass rate of this exam, so much so that the first faculty is what's called FAFSA approved. So our US students can access FAFSA loans. And I've noticed a few of the US candidates that we've got already applied this year are online, and we've already discussed that. But I think, Professor, can you tell us a bit more about your student success on the USMLE and progression to the United States for residency matching?
Well, basically, I already said that within the last 3 years, and it was very similar in the previous years as well, we've got the statistics, and we are proud to say that basically the success rate and the pass rate in USMLE step 1 and 2 was reaching close to 90%. So we were between 83 and 94%, if I recall that all well. So the pass rate is very high, and I'm talking about altogether a few hundred students. So it's not like individuals, but there are really tens or dozens of students every year going through the process. So we're quite confident that we can prepare you for this type of exams that basically make you eligible to enter the US healthcare system, but also other healthcare systems like Israeli and others.
Yeah, I think one other thing that the USMLE gives people as well is if those we do get applicants coming from Australia and New Zealand, and we get students, especially out in Asia, who are looking at perhaps doing residencies in Australia and New Zealand. If you want to bypass the Australian licensing exam, the USMLE is one way of doing that as well. So having the USMLE in your kind of armory is a good thing to have anyway, because of the different options it gives you. And the one thing I think Darren will agree with me on, and John, hopefully, as he goes through the course, is when you study internationally, it changes your perspective on perhaps your future. So we do get, especially a lot of British students who want to kind of come back to Britain and work. Fine, we'd love to have you. We're desperate for doctors in the UK. But you may go to Prague and then decide, actually, I want to try and working here or work here. One of our old students, Aaron, his plan was to come to the UK after he graduated. He was originally from Hong Kong. He's now in Massachusetts at the St. Elizabeth Medical Center working in anesthesiology. It does change you. And I see that when I come to your graduations, which I often do, the change that has occurred to you over that 6 years. And it's fantastic to see. The only way I change is my hair gets grayer, but you guys grow and develop. So
do you think, Ben, I could just very quickly add that first faculty of medicine really is in an multicultural area as well. There is everything international, I would say. The area, the people, the students. It's not like studying medicine you wanted to study at home, but just abroad. It really has. I mean, you can, just as you mentioned, you can, but it is a great choice if you want to become an internationally thinking person. So because not every area offers this really.
Yeah. And again, the faculty, someone's asked about the size of the faculty. I think you have about 150 seats available. Is that correct for medicine?
Yes.
Yep. And about 40, I think 40 for dentistry.
30.
30 for dentistry. There we go. So, there is, and the exams, like you said, if we're running exams in London, Berlin, Toronto, Hong Kong, Dubai, you can just imagine the diversity of students. And I personally, as someone who's got experience working in a UK university context, think the diversity of your cohort represents more of the diversity of the patients that you are going to be working with once you're a qualified doctor. So imagine you're learning in a diverse environment, and you're certainly going to be working in a culturally diverse environment, irrespective of the world that you work, especially in the UK, if you work in London, where every single language in the world is spoken. So I think that's one thing that studying in Europe and at the first faculty, a large faculty, can actually give you. So I'm going to speak to Darren and John here. Darren especially, I think, and John can give us it from the starting perspective. The course is obviously fully taught in English. All your teaching's in English, all your exams, including your state exams, are in English, but you do learn Czech to help communicate with patients as part of the first part of your degree. So people have asked about what's the level like? How have you found it? What's your experience of learning Czech, and what support have you got perhaps in the classroom environment and then in the clinical environment to help you through that process? Because one thing I will say is very rarely has a student ever come to me. I think it's only ever happened once in 11, 13 years even now, has any student once ever struggled with the language, because most students find that biophysics or anatomy is a lot more challenging than learning the local language. But if you can just, I think Darren will start with you because you're at the end. And then, John, I'm going to switch over to you as someone who started off on this journey. If you can give us a bit more about your engagement with Czech language for the benefit of your clinical placements.
Definitely. So in terms of learning Czech, our faculty provides free language classes for Czech for the first 3 years of your education. So that's during your preclinical years. And the main idea behind this is that you practice on the language before you move on to your clinical years and actually deal with a few patients that maybe you need to use some of this Czech to understand some of their family history or to understand the medications they're taking, or what diseases or pain or issues they're going through or symptoms they're going through. It is very beneficial to learn Czech when you're dealing with patients because we are in the Czech Republic. However, I'm glad to say, I'm not glad to say, I don't speak any Czech, but I'm glad to say I'm graduating soon. I don't speak much Czech. Because our course is completely taught in English. So you can definitely get through 6 years without speaking any Czech. However, I do believe it's very beneficial because the faculty offers you free classes to learn Czech, both the general Czech that's going to help you, as John mentioned earlier, to order something at the cafe or at the supermarket. But also we teach you clinical Czech, where you can name different parts of the body and understand different symptoms that the patients are having. So we give you a little bit of both so that you can live in the Czech Republic and deal with patients. You don't need to know Czech because our degree is taught completely in English, but it's definitely very beneficial. My opinion is that Czech is a difficult language, but that's only, personally, I only speak English as a language. So I know that someone that's more linguistic than me can definitely learn Czech. So I know a few students in our year that definitely know how to speak Czech, and a lot of them decide to stay in the Czech Republic as well. Those who do have to learn Czech in the end, and this is where you can take the best opportunity out of those first 3 years to learn it, because the faculty provides you with the classes, both clinical and medical Czech. So definitely make use of it. But I think John can give you a better experience because it's been 2 years since I've last practiced my Czech. Not last practiced my Czech, but last sat in the Czech class. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. So far, my Czech learning has been twice a week, and it's a basic level Czech with very limited clinical words. It's just general knowledge, I think A1 or A2 level Czech. And I started with 0 previous knowledge of Czech. I'm fluent in one other language, Spanish. I mean, so it didn't help too much, but I started with no previous knowledge, and I'm doing just fine. I did a Czech final, I got 92%. And if you pay attention in class and just do the homework, and just not an issue, I found.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, because I think that both guys are correct. Basically, we are still medical school, so Czech is a tool to help you to communicate with real patients, and this is the end where that basically we insist on having some Czech. But don't worry, the entire course is being taught in English. Prague is totally international environment, and I believe that even John and Darren haven't encountered any major issues with communication in English, also in those cafes and supermarkets. So, but it's always nice, when you speak a few words. But at the faculty, you definitely won't have a trouble. And our aim is not to make you speak in fluently. Our aim is to enable you to talk to patients only. So you don't need to fear. And Czech has never been a trouble, so to my knowledge, in terms of, going smoothly through the individual years of studies. But to my surprise, Czech is a difficult language, particularly to people who don't have any Slavic background. But basically, I'm very much surprised how fluent some guys actually get, that it enables them to finally practice in the Czech Republic, because when you want to practice and become a doctor there, then you need to be pretty good at Czech, of course. But that's not a condition for our students.
Perfect. I think that's always one of the concerns I think some students have, irrespective of which country they go to. One thing I will say about Czech compared to some other languages across Europe, yes, it is based on a Slavic history, but it uses the Latin, the Roman alphabet. The other thing as well is you tend to pick up a lot of different words that have come in from English that have now become part of the lexicon as well. Also, Prague, everyone speaks English everywhere, even across the whole Czech Republic, especially in Prague, because it is such a bustling, popular, dynamic, internationally connected city. What my argument would be is that meet the local students, go for coffees with some of the local students as well, get to know them as well, because they're very open to learning about you as you are about them, and that will help boost your Czech communication skills from the very word go, really. Okay, so
and there is help everywhere.
Perfect, yeah, and that's the thing. If you ask for help, and this is the one thing I want to go a bit more broadly, if you ask for help anywhere, it's available. If you put the effort in, expect that back from the faculty, just like it would be in a UK medical school. Having worked in a UK School of Health and Rehabilitation and taught medical students, midwives, physiotherapists myself, I can tell you, I will go above and beyond, and I did go above and beyond for my students, provided they are putting the effort in to learn. It's always rewarding to help educate students who are dedicated, and obviously Darren and John are two brilliant examples of the many that we've supported across the years to full graduation. Okay, for those who've asked about fee structure, it's 24,250 euros. You pay now in euros this year. That's per academic year. I think some of those basic things we just need to kind of get out there. Okay. Someone's asked about housing. Now, this is an important one. If you're a student who needs to apply for a visa, you will be given a dorm agreement because it's a requirement to apply for the visa. So you are effectively guaranteed that accommodation, provided you get the agreement and pay the relatively small deposit for the dorms. I think Darren and John, I think you may have stayed in the dorms for a while, but I think you then decided to move independently. John, I don't know if you've decided to move to an apartment or whether you're still in the dorms, but I know, Darren, you've done both, haven't you? So John, where are you staying right now?
Yeah, John, go ahead.
So I started off in the dorms, and I made friends quite quickly. So now I have a roommate in an apartment fairly close to the faculty. But yeah, I started off in Javier's dormitory, and that was no issue. I just looked for an apartment, so that's where I am now.
I think that's one thing which is common. You're not, unlike in the UK, you're not bound into a long contract. If you give 1 month's notice, if you make some friends at university and you say, listen, guys, let's go and rent a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, something like that, have a bit more independence, perhaps a bit more privacy or a bit different location, then the dorms are a great way to meet people like that. And it doesn't actually, mean you're stuck into anything. Yeah. I think, Darren, have you moved to different places as you've gone through the course? Because I know some students go and live in apartments closer to some of the hospitals for 1 year, perhaps, and stay in another part of Prague for the other.
Exactly, yeah. In my first apartment, I lived in Prague. I was a 2-minute walk. I could see the anatomy building from my window. In fact, there was a day that the front door was locked, so I had to jump out from the ground floor of my friend's window to get to my anatomy test that was at 8 a.m. So I've moved around Prague a little bit for sure. I haven't lived in the dorms, in fact. But I will tell you this, when you join our faculty, you're guaranteed a spot at the dorm. So you don't have to worry in terms of, I need to get to Prague or I need to book accommodation online, which I definitely warn everyone in advance, don't book accommodation online other than the faculty dorms. The faculty dorms are safe and it's a proper contract that's given to you by the faculty, but don't look at any other websites without seeing an apartment and paying for a deposit online other than the faculty provided dorm. So what I did is I came to Prague, and exactly how you mentioned, Ben, that there isn't a binding contract. If you want to stay in the dorms, you can stay in the dorms. If you want to stay in your own apartment, you can stay in your own apartment. The faculty offers you a spot, so you definitely have a place to stay when you arrive in Prague. And if you want to move out of that apartment, you can. And something I definitely mention is that Prague is a very affordable city. It's one of the most affordable cities in Central Europe. Definitely much more affordable than UK and London and Dubai, where I grew up. And I use the word affordable because you can definitely find great apartments for the price you pay anywhere else in Europe. So I have a nice apartment a little bit away this year from the city. I've been living here for the last 2 years because I spend most of my time closer to the city, but I wanted a little bit more quiet and peace, I think, in my last year, so I can study quietly, and that's why I'm maybe 20 minutes away from the center now. So yeah, wide range of options, a lot of historical buildings as well, and there's something for everyone, and it's affordable. So yeah, you'll find something that matches you definitely.
John, actually, oh, sorry, Veronica, go ahead.
No, I would just add one thing, safe. All the areas are extremely safe. So I think that's one thing to mention. Basically, no matter what you choose, it's safe.
I may add to that Prague it's a capital. There's you know, with the neighborhoods, I think it's more than 1.2 million people. So it is a capital that offers basically everything a big capital offers. But the connection with the outskirts through the public transportation is fabulous compared to basically everywhere else I've had a chance to explore. Everything's very well connected. So even though Dara now lives in the outskirts, he mentioned 20 minutes commuting time. That's really not bad. And so you basically don't need to worry. Everyone finds a suitable place. And when somebody asks about, is it affordable, or is it pricey? Basically, you can find all types of accommodation in Prague. So if you want a luxurious penthouse in the city center, that's going to be costly. If you want to save money, you'll find something very decent for a very reasonable price.
And the one thing I want to come across, and you can verify this, guys, by checking the stats out, Prague is such a safe city. It's one of the safest cities, not just in Europe, but in the world. There's no no-go areas. Even the underground, they do not bother having barriers on the underground. And I think, John, Darren, you pay about $60 a year for your student travel permit, something like that?
Yeah, 50 euros.
50 euros for a year's worth of unlimited travel on the underground. And with your ISIC card, you've got very cheap connections on trains to Berlin, to Dresden, around the Czech Republic, down to Vienna. So, and this is the one thing I want to say to students, especially if you need a visa to come and visit Europe as a tourist. So if you've got an Indian passport, an Egyptian passport, for example, Nigerian passport, Ghanaian passport, or you want to come and visit Europe, you need a visa, and you know how hard that is to get. If you've got your student visa, your student residency permit, that effectively allows you to travel across the whole Schengen zone for the 6 years of your studies. And I know, Darren, you've made best use of that facility in your time living in the Czech Republic and studying at the first faculty.
Absolutely. We're right in the center. So if you want to take a weekend and visit Germany or the Netherlands, so my sister lives on the other side of Germany, so I visit her often. It's just an hour flight. So we're really right in the center. So visiting all the other 20 plus Schengen countries is super easy, beautiful, and relaxing. So yeah, I do it all the time. Just hop on a bus for the weekend and you pay 10 or 20 euros for a return trip and have just one backpack. It's honestly the perfect student experience that you need, I think. So yeah, I love it. And the transport system as well, I do agree. 50 euros for a whole year of unlimited bus, tram, and metro is just insane. I've never seen this anywhere else in the world. Dubai has great transport system. You know, growing up, they were really establishing it. But here in Prague, the transport system is insane. The 20-minute tram ride, the tram stop is, I can see it from my window. It's just down my street, and yeah, it's a very, very good and extremely safe as well. So I can definitely vouch for those 2 points.
We're going to fly through some of the questions, guys, because there's more questions coming in, and I do think I want to get to some of them. Some of the procedural things, deadlines, okay? We need to submit your data to the university 2 weeks before the exam, okay? So 2 weeks before the exam. Please do not apply at the last minute for 2 reasons. One, we can't guarantee the faculty will accept your application for that exam because staff need to process the applications. The second thing is you need to give yourself enough prep time. So if you're telling me you want to apply now for an exam next week, I will say no, because I don't want you wasting your time and money, because you need time to prep. And also, I don't want to stress the team out at the university, because a lot of work, there's actually more work than you think goes into those applications and those procedures because of all the different safeguarding policies and procedures, the legal procedures the universities have to follow. After the exam and after your MMI, if you are lucky to be accepted, okay, and someone said, why is first faculty oversubscribed? Well, you just need to look at the clinical and career outputs of the first faculty. It is one of the most famous medical schools in the world. Hence, that's why it's oversubscribed. But about visas, people have asked about the visas. We will be in touch with you before your exam to start some of the paperwork for your visa, but we can't apply for the visa without the documents from the university, All right, it's important we have those documents. We can't even get an appointment at a relevant embassy without the official offer letter and the dorm agreement. And you have to have those in hard copy, not e-copy, physical hard copy with wet stamps and signatures. But we can prepare other documents like police reports, translations, things that need apostilling or superlegalizing before. And at Medical Doorway, we know the procedure for each of the passports for the Czech Republic. We will provide that information at the opportune time to make sure you're not getting things too early, which can happen, or getting things too late. Okay? So let's flick on down some of the other questions that I do want to prioritize. Okay. Someone's asked, when are the exams usually for medicine? So Darren or John, I know, John, you're doing exams now, but you will have different types of exams. You've got the small credit exams, haven't you? The ongoing exams. Then you've got your big end of module exams. If you can just give us, John, a little bit of experience about your first semester and how that went, and then how you are now in the January exam period.
Yeah, so the first thing to get used to is weekly anatomy tests. And there's a slide test of about 30 marks for me every Friday, some people every Wednesday. So that's ongoing throughout the winter semester. And then at the end of the winter semester, you have credit tests and end of module tests. So the big final I'll have is the biophysics final, as biophysics is a course taught in the winter semester. And then you'll have credit tests for Czech, Latin, and histology. And so far I've had Czech and Latin, and histology is next. So there's your end of semester tests and then weekly tests in anatomy, and then somewhat weekly tests in histology, which are less regular, but anatomy tests are the first thing I got used to.
Yeah. And then Darren, if you can tell me a bit more about your end of module exams, because I know you've done, you've probably lost count of how many you've done.
Lost count of exams, yeah, this point. So essentially how it works is you have tests in that subject, and you do these weekly, bi-weekly, or semester tests in order to get the credit for that subject. And once you have the credit for the subject, you can go on and do the final exam. And it works a little bit differently. In your first 3 years, you have the final exams either in February or either from June to September. From your 4th to 6th year onwards, they're interspersed throughout the year because you do the subject like ENT or orthopedics or surgery, and then you'd have the exam after that. I think just one point for that is a lot of your final exams, or the last point of your final exams, you can have a written part or some practical part like a physical exam, or analyze an ECG, for example, or maybe in anatomy you would have a dissection part where you'd be handed the cadaver, or a different part of the cadaver, and you'd identify sections on it. But the last part of your final exam is oral, and we find this to be a very, very engaging for our students, because as a doctor, your patient's not going to ask you to write a 3-page report on a heart attack, but rather to explain to them how they got the heart attack and what they're going to do, and the steps they're going to manage it in future. So oral exams is something that we find to be very beneficial for our students or doctors as a whole. That's why we also have an MMI part of our entrance exam. But yeah, it's just tests, credit tests, and your final exam. That can be a few parts. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Darren. I think people just want to know how they're being assessed. I think that's a valid thing, really, because different universities assess students in different ways. For the student asking about a UK degree, would you be eligible for an exemption on the exam? It depends on the type of degree you've got and what the credits show, the subjects that you showed on the transcript. We've already submitted a significant number of graduates, both from the UK and the US this year, all of which have been approved for exemption from the entrance exam. So if you send me the transcript based on my experience of dealing with that, I'll be able to determine probably with 99% certainty if you would be exempted from the entrance exam. If you're not and you don't particularly want to take the exam, fine, we can look at other options. But if you get in touch with Medical Doorway, and then we'll get a copy of your degree certificate and your transcript, we will assess that for you, and then we will be able to take that forward. If I've ever got any questions, I can always delegate to Veronica, and she'll always come back to me very quickly.
Thank you for mentioning this, because I would really like to praise Ben. He is just an excellent person to cooperate with. And it's always, because again, it's procedures, university, it's always better to check in advance, and then it all goes smoothly. And we haven't had a trouble so far. I think it's already 6 or 8 people.
We've got 6 students, I think.
Right. So
in the US.
Thank you, Ben, at this point.
Perfect. It's a very useful, I think I'm going to thank the faculty for this because, you know, many graduates from universities come with such a level of knowledge and skills, but they've perhaps lost what I call that pure knowledge from high school, which is often what the entrance exams, but they're coming with a higher level of applied knowledge and skills that are very, very useful for medicine. And although there are certain hurdles that you have to jump over, you know, this actually means that we're giving you as university graduates some credit for that extra level of knowledge and skills that you've acquired through university.
And often the graduates have already proven that they know how to deal with unexpected and, you know, information they forgot. They know where to find it. They know how to apply it, just as you said. We appreciate that.
For those people that have asked repeat questions, I'm just typing them in quickly as we go. Okay. So MMI interviews are starting from January. They then happen at regular intervals after the different entrance exams. Okay. People are asking about when they apply. Listen, you apply effectively in the year of admission. So for those students who are looking at 2025 admission, they apply. We open applications at Medical Doorway from around about November the year before. We start the process officially in December, but we will start you on your prep from whenever you apply. But if you're looking at 2026, you don't apply now. You apply after we've enrolled the students in 2025. It's not like the UK where we have a very early deadline that you have to hit. Like I said, we have exams happening all the way right through to August, provided you have got the right passport for that particular exam. There are different times we can apply. Okay. I'm just going to whittle through the questions, guys. I think someone's asked, are the people friendly? I think anyone who's been watching this webinar will see how hospitable and friendly both Czech people are, as well as the international students that are going to be part of your cohort. Darren did mention earlier on LF1 MedSoc. There are very few student societies in Europe that are as welcoming and as organized as LF1 MedSoc. I've got a few that I'm not going to mention here, but that are very just like LF1 MedSoc, just as good. But the MedSoc is not just about social. They will help you with your studies as well, because everyone, as a doctor, are working as a member of a multidisciplinary team. It's there to work together to get everyone to go through the process. And this is the other thing. As students, you're not in competition with each other, Charles. It's not like the French system. You're all working together. Everyone can pass, everyone can fail, but if we work together, we'll get everyone through and get them to be fantastic doctors and great ambassadors, just like John and Darren are here today. Okay, we are nearly at 6:30 UK time, 7:30. I don't want to keep everyone on the line for late into the night. I think we could go all night. Let me have a quick look at some of these questions. So no, yeah, that's about graduates. Perfect. Someone said, is year 13 required? You have to be eligible for the faculty, you have to have graduated from high school with an eligibility to go to university in your home country. So you have to have three A levels, for example, the IB diploma, a full CBSE, US high school diploma with or without APs, the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education, or one of the Canadian diplomas. If you've graduated from high school, you are eligible to apply, sit the exam, and as long as you've graduated from school before September, you will be able to enroll. We will get you through the notification process quickly and easily. For those that are wondering about the recording, it's on our YouTube channel. You'll get an email tomorrow with the link. Okay. Now, someone's asked a very interesting question here, and I think I'm going to hand over to Professor Vrablik about this. It says, does Charles University expect students to have work experience? Okay. If not, what's the criteria to grant admission to students? Now, remember, you're going to have an MMI interview. My vision is that that work experience can help you in your MMI, especially in the motivation section, which is a new set station for this year, Professor. Am I right?
Yeah, you're very much right. We actually replaced the motivation letter that we requested to date by this particular new part of MMIs. You're been right, because basically every experience expands your your likelihood of responding to the question in a way that's finally evaluated as appropriate. Though you very correctly mentioned, there's not a right or wrong answer. It's basically to test your response to all the different situations that you may encounter as a regular citizen, not a real physician or healthcare professional. But basically, to answer the question clearly, there's no previous working experience requested. But yes, it might be helpful, but basically that doesn't earn you additional points, except for perhaps better response during being tested with Veronica during MMIs.
Absolutely. We get questions whether we can add some points, taken into account any previous experience. We can't. But I would like to add that actually tells you more about, especially when it's in the field or around it, what it means to be a doctor. And just that knowing more what it is like gives you more inner motivation to overcome the entrance exam and all that is connected with it. So it helps even in that way. It just makes you really be firm about your decision and more motivated to get there. So it definitely helps, just doesn't add points directly.
I think at this point we really need to say something here. The entrance exam is actually designed to help you to really recognize whether you fit for the studies that are challenging, that are sometimes demanding, time-consuming. So it's not to torture you, but rather to help you to really recognize, yes, I am the one that will most likely easily go through the process of studies. So to that end, we designed this, let's say, 2-round and multiple, let's say, experience admission process. So it's basically not to torture you. It's not basically to fail most of this applicants. It's basically to really show you and help you to identify yourself as the best candidate. That's it.
There's two things there's a few things we'll probably finish off because I don't want to keep everyone too long. There's one question I've left here because I want to ask it. It's a brilliant question and it's going to kind of be a nice round off. But people have asked about the regulations for the UK, both in medicine and dentistry, okay? Just to give you the reassurance, the qualification that you get, especially if you want to come to the UK, both in medicine and dentistry, is directly recognised in the UK. You don't have to take my word for it. You can take the word of both the GMC, and what I'll do is I'll share the GMC website with everyone. So if you qualify, you're currently exempt from the medical licensing assessment from the UK. You would apply for full registration with a license to practice. All that information is here on the GMC website, okay? And for dentistry, someone asked about dentistry. There's a direct route to registration using this little question, the direct route to registration. So you have a relevant European diploma. You can then apply for direct registration with the GDC. Under current legislation, no ORE. And the information is all on the GDC website. So the number of hours are compliant, the qualifications are compliant. Even after Britain left the EU, we retain that legislation in our statute book. Why? Because we've had fantastic doctors and dentists coming from the Czech Republic for many years. A political decision doesn't mean we don't need them anymore. We certainly need a lot more doctors if you currently look at what the headlines are like in the UK. So all that information is available open source on the GMC and the GDC website, as you would expect. Okay, right. There's a couple more questions. The last one, before the penultimate question, is a simple one about entry qualifications. People have asked about grades. Like I said, in Britain, we're all about conditional offers becoming unconditional based on your high school grades. That's not how the Czech Republic system works. Whether you get A star, A star, A star, or whether you get BBB or CCC, as long as you've graduated with 3 A-levels or with the full IB diploma, doesn't matter whether you got 45 points or 35 points or 28 points. If you graduate with a qualification, which is what I call a terminal high school qualification, and pass the entrance exam, you will enroll. So we do have students who have graduated and are in specialist training in the UK who didn't get A star AA and a UCAT of 50 million, all right? It doesn't, your knowledge is for that entrance exam and then what you bring to the medical profession or the first faculty in this particular case. The exam says, as Professor Vlablik said, it's there to help you to make sure you've got the base level of knowledge to make a success of your time at medical school. The MMI tells us, do you have the personal attributes to take responsibility and learn and think in the correct way to ensure that you're going to engage with the type of material and the education process, which is going to be what's core to your success. Remember, medicine is a bit different. You've all done high school education, but medicine is an applied science. You start off with 0 in my mind, and then you work your way up.
And
then,
also it tests your English. So
yeah,
no language requirements.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. A lot of the other questions that have been asked, we dealt with in the presentation or on or in other questions, but there's one final question. This is both for Darren and for John. The question, I'm going to read it out clear. It's a brilliant question. It's the best question. Whoever asked this, I'm not going to mention you. Brilliant. Can both of the students say why they chose Prague over the UK? Now, forget about entry requirements, things like that. John, and then I'll go to Darren in a minute. John, you're, lived in Britain. Tell us, why Prague over the UK?
Yeah. So I ended up taking a gap year and working in Austria in a ski resort. So that was kind of the first time I'd lived away from home and experienced living in Europe. And I really liked it. So I started to consider the possibility of going to school in Europe. And I found out about LF1 through online research, then got in contact with Ben. And I learned about the excellence of the faculty and importantly, how they use real cadavers to teach anatomy, which I thought was very important. And having recently finished winter dissections, I found it to be really great for learning anatomy. And I had a place at a school in the UK, but they did not teach with real cadavers. But Charles University uses real cadavers. And also it's a very prestigious university. It's recognized in Europe, the US and the UK. So I found it to be the better option for me. And also it's more of an adventure living in Europe. So yeah.
But John, that's about the faculty. Come on, what about Prague? What about
Prague?
You're studying,
yeah.
but you have to live as well, don't you? Come on.
Right. Well, Prague is a beautiful city. There's lots of nice cafes which I study at, and it's very safe as well, which is very important for my mum because she wanted to know I'd be safe.
There's mum definitely on the call today because I've recognized some of the names, so that's a good thing to say.
Yeah. So it's a safe city, very beautiful city, very historic, and the living costs and transport costs are very affordable for a student. So yeah.
And I think accessibility as well. Prague is so easy to get to. You've got direct flights from across the UK. You've got direct flights. I think got 3 flights a day now to Dubai with 3 different airlines. You can fly directly to North America, to Southeast Asia. It's a very well-connected city, and that's, I think, another benefit as well. Darren, a lot of students I know you're from Dubai originally. A lot of students from Dubai, they seem to have this kind of vision about studying medicine in the UK as if it's the only place which teaches medicine, okay? Or just due to historical links. But come on, from your perspective, as someone who knows the UK, because I know you've done electives in the UK. I know you were here last summer, and that's for everyone online. Yes, you can do that, irrespective of your passport. But why Prague as opposed to the UK? That was what the question asked.
That's a good question. So as opposed to John, I grew up in Dubai, so I didn't grow up in the UK, and UK wasn't preferentially my first choice. Although I do value the education that UK and US universities provide, you definitely have to look at the entire landscape of the medical picture. A lot of medicine really originates from Europe. Its practice and the clinical practice in the US and the UK is absolutely fantastic. But a lot of medicine, really, the research in medicine itself originates from Europe. To give you the best example, Jan Purkinje, and a lot of students who are in school and who are learning biology will know about Purkinje cells in the heart. And you might not know that there's also Purkinje cells in your brain, in your cerebellum specifically. And Jan Purkinje was a Czech scientist, and he discovered the Institute of Purkinje, where John has his first year anatomy classes hundreds of years ago. So a lot of medicine originated here. And another reason why I did is actually I was on one of these calls, and I saw students just like John and I who were doing well for themselves and who were happy. And I knew people who were in Dubai who. My sister was in a few years older than I was, and she had a few of her classmates that have come to Prague, and they were in their 3rd and 4th year. They were enjoying their time both in the city and in the faculty. And I'm glad to say that both of them are in fact working in the UK. One's in Liverpool and the other one's in Great Western in Swindon, where I just interned at. So really, I think medicine is the same wherever you study in the world, right? The diagnosis, the treatment might be a little bit different, but the diagnosis and the diseases are the same everywhere in the world. There's differences in how we teach it to you, right? Now, when you take a faculty that's the oldest in Central Europe, that does probably one of the largest outputs of research in medicine and in science, and you have a good clinical setting, I think this creates an overall picture of what you want your medical university to be like. So that's something I saw. I saw the students doing well. I saw the output of research and the output of medicine in itself coming out of Europe, and I think this is why I made my decision to come here. So I'm glad I did 5.5 years ago, and I have just a few more months left. So I'm glad to say that I did make that decision, and I enjoyed every step of the journey, the ups, the downs, the everything in the middle as well. So yeah.
And it's a big step spending, because you go into university at 16, 18, you're graduating at 24. You are effectively growing, becoming a man, becoming a person in that period, becoming more independent. I can't think of many better places in the world than Central Europe and Prague. It's a very safe place. The education is fantastic. The city itself, the country itself is beautiful. You've got skiing, you've got lakes, you've got rivers, you've got great connections. Professor Vlablik talked about the great beer before. Yeah, don't overconsume, but sample it if your cultural and religious practices allow you to. But there's so many things in this wonderful country that you're going to experience from wherever you are in the world, and that's the critical thing. Anyone. You're going to be in a very dynamic, in a very multicultural environment, studying one of the oldest medical schools in the world. And thanks for those great answers. It's getting on a bit late now. I think that most of the questions that we've been left, we've already dealt with. I want to say a huge thank you to Veronica for giving up her evening and away from her family time. Professor Vlablik, I know he's very busy with both academic and clinical work. And obviously a huge thank you to Darren. Darren, we will obviously see you again before you graduate. I'm definitely determined to do that. John, we will
and after
some point in Prague as well after the enrollment period. But I want to say a huge thank you to the huge numbers of people that attended tonight. A few people have had to drop off. I can see the numbers have gone down a little bit from where we started our peak, because it is late for some people. And we have had people from South Korea and Hong Kong on. So that's some early hours of the morning for those people now. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone that's signed in, asked the questions. You'll be getting an email tomorrow with a link to the recording on our YouTube channel. We did show you how to apply. We have told you the exam dates. So if you want to apply, my advice is get this now, get the application in, and get that full free of charge support from Medical Doorway. And, let's see if you become the next first year students in September 2025 at the First Faculty of Medicine. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to say good night or good afternoon or, good morning, depending on where you are.
And we shall end up with big thanks to you, Ben, and Medical Doorway for the great collaboration. Thank you. And also thank you for this evening.
Always a pleasure. Take care.